Morning.
Morning, y'all. We'll be starting shortly. Hey, y'all. It'll be a few minutes. I'm in public getting my coffee. And I don't want to record anybody inadvertently. Good morning. Good. Yeah, but I've got a debit card. I need to spend $3. Is that right?
I get it. Sometimes they come in here and they don't spend $3. So, I mean,
Well,
and
if you're okay, just ringing up the coffee.
it goes through, so
Okay.
I'm for real.
Yeah.
$1.69.
I mean, I don't put no minimum on my customers.
I mean, like I said, they come in, it don't charge them to what I can see on my side. It don't charge them no extra.
Right. I think the credit card company, they get a percent,
Okay.
but a percent is the same whatever.
It didn't charge you no extra.
You have a good one.
You too.
See you later. Okay. We can turn the camera on now. I don't have to get anybody's express written permission, blah, 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 like they used to say about baseball. And I got me a cup of coffee. See if I can get this back to the house without spilling it. Actually, there's a trick to it. Demonstrate. If you hold your cup perfectly like this, your arm acts as a shock absorber. My daddy taught me how to drink coffee on a tractor when I was 6 years old without spilling a drop. And God Hour is going to officially start at 8 o'clock this morning. Still no drops. Yes, I'm in my old beat up farm truck. Because I live in rural Alabama. And this truck has 500,000 miles on it. And it's paid off. I see no reason to change until the truck insists on running no more. Nothing really beats that first cup of coffee, even if it is gas station coffee. I like for that in the morning. Not when you get a $1 cup of coffee right down the road. Greet your neighbors and all that good stuff. But I did not spill the coffee. This is the tricky part, getting up my very tough driveway. You know, it's not going to be possible to with the phone and the coffee. All right. Let's see if I can. Flip the camera to give you an idea what our driveways are like in Alabama. All right. We're back to my property, my sanctuary, with a whole cup of coffee. Mission accomplished. You may notice that I wear my seatbelt even for a 1 mile slow trip down to the country store. Even though I doubt at any point I was going fast enough to be injured in a wreck. It's just a good habit to be in. Speaking from very first-hand experience, car wrecks can be very dangerous. Do I need anything from inside? I suppose nothing more than a Bible. All right there. Good morning, everybody. I am from Alabama, which is lower east side of the United States. That doesn't look Arabic to me. Is that Hebrew? MD8? I just had my Bible. What happened to it? There it is. I hate to sound like I sponsor any sort of products, but this particular Bible app that I use makes reading the Bible so much more convenient. Not that reading from a hard copy book is missing anything, except for the convenience of being able to click which book and chapter you want to read from. Excuse me. So I'm not going to promote the particular Bible app that I'm using. Let's see. It was suggested to me that Psalm 65 would make a good subject. I don't know what the bug gang is. Typically when I don't know what something is, I'm against it, but I'm open-minded to learn before I really make that judgment. Got about 13 minutes to start reading. I have no particular problem with smoking. Used to be a straight up pothead in my day. Now, I don't love smoking cigarettes, but I do. I wish I didn't. I'll work on that one day. At this point, I got enough things to work on that smoking is not the top one. That may be what I need to do, or either clove cigarettes. Being as I live in Alabama, even like the Delta 8 pot is considered the same as Delta 9 THC. You get arrested for it, in other words. It's very back time, backwoods, backwater laws we have here. Yeah, it is weird. It'll give you a headache. Usually it smells nice, like as the bud. my own personal view, in its natural state, marijuana makes a great medicine. I wish that I had been prescribed marijuana instead of the dozens of different opioids when I got hurt in 2010. And if any of you are unaware, I was in a wheelchair for 3 years or so. Was in a coma for about 3 weeks and some change. Uh, jaws wired together for about 6 months. Total facial reconstruction, which they did a fairly good job, I guess. I don't like the way my face looks, but it's not the surgeon's fault. They did as good as anybody could. And you can really only tell by the broken nose, but I could tell by the plates that are scattered throughout my face and brows, and jaw was rebuilt, and you notice I have a bit of a speech impediment. It is what it is. Oh, I feel fine. I don't take pain pills now, and I don't even smoke anymore. And I work a full-time job. No longer disabled. Which that's my own personal testimony of God's grace and mercy, what He can and will do for you if He sees fit. On the other hand, I've seen people in much more minor, much less extreme accidents that are crippled for life, and count my blessings daily that I'm able to get up and go to work. More specifically, get up and devote a little bit, at least an hour, to God every morning. And I'd struggled to find my purpose, to understand why I'd been re-given the ability to walk, why I don't live in such crippling pain that some people that have been in much smaller accidents go through. My first thought was God restored me to honor my father and mother as they passed away, to take care of them. Being an only child, they took care of me. Now, my father died kind of suddenly. I couldn't do much for him. He was on the other side of the country, and I got about a 48-hour notice to get there if I wanted to see him, and I didn't have any plane tickets to Idaho in my pocket. So that was Dad. But Mom, we knew it was coming, so I moved back to Alabama to take care of her, to this property actually, so that she could die in her own home with her only son by her side, taking care of her. And I figured that was why I was given the strength to take care of my mom. But then she passed, and I continued living. I went off the rails for a while there, as probably anybody would once they become an orphan and lost both of their parents, particularly as an only child with no brothers or sisters. That's rough, man. I've never been married. I've been engaged twice, and I broke up with the first fiance because she wanted to get pregnant as quick as possible, even before marriage. I'm not talking about having sex. She wanted to literally get pregnant before marriage, and I said that doesn't sound good to me. I don't like that idea. And then shortly thereafter, she slept around on me. And when I found about it, I immediately broke up with her. The second engagement, I didn't follow through on that. Well, we broke up because of differences in faith. Uh, but to her credit, she was a brilliant, great person, very smart, very, very beautiful. Uh, but she was a Mormon, and I'm not judging the Mormon faith, but our differences in the way we led our lives required either of us, both of us, to change. And I think she wanted me to be the one to change, to forego all cigarettes and alcohol. And it didn't work out for me. um, and I do miss Shauna, I guess I could say her name. Uh, I've talked to her a couple times and just chit-chatting, nothing rekindling or anything like that. But Mormonism is it's a type of Christianity I don't understand, but for the most part, Mormons are good people. We've heard about this attack on that Mormon church in the news, perhaps. And I don't know. She was a great person. It's just her faith and mine. I couldn't see raising children or converting myself to Mormonism in that environment. She didn't sign on to the polygamy concept of Mormonism. I jokingly asked her, I said, so if we get married, I can marry some other women too? Is that how Mormonism works? She said, no, that's not how it's going to work. But you can't have a drop of alcohol or a cigarette for the rest of your life. And I said, well, I'm not going to be able to promise you that. And she said, well, that's what I need out of a husband. I said, well, I understand that, and I'm not the husband for you. And I do hope that she's found somebody that suits her, that are evenly yoked, so to speak. And you're absolutely right. And that is kind of why I smoke on camera, to illustrate the fact that I have my vices, I commit my sins, as everybody does. Got about 3 minutes here. Now, recently, we've completed the book of Matthew, which is a fantastic book to start learning about Christ. And I've been pondering what should be the next book to focus on God Hour here. And I think Daniel or Romans are going to be the next ones to focus on. I can't imagine, though, being married 10 years. I've never been in a relationship that long. I've never been in one more than 2.5 years. Uh, but the idea of God Hour is to reach people in any walk of life, whether they be agnostic. Uh, we had a Hindi gentleman join yesterday. Um, it really doesn't matter if you're interested in hearing the word. He that hath an ear, let him hear. But now on the subject of Psalm, the book of Psalms, it's probably not a surprise to everybody, but some may not be aware that Psalms are songs, and most of them, I believe, the majority of them, at least some of them, were written by David. Yeah, I can only imagine 10 years, where I was 10 years ago, and to have spent that alongside one woman, and then to have that taken away, that that that's gotta hurt. Uh, Now, my own situation, I've had girlfriends in the last 10 years, uh, but nobody really marriage worthy to me. Uh, I'm a retired drug addict. As I mentioned, they had me on every opioid you can think of. Fentanyl patches, Roxycodone, pure oxycodone, OxyContin, the extended release version, Dilaudid, Percocets, morphine, uh, Norcos, Lortab, hydrocodone. All at the same time. They were just giving me pain pills by the bucket full. And I guess they just assumed, well, he'll never walk again, so they'll just keep him doped up the rest of his life. That way he feels happy and no pain. Of the 6 specialists I was seeing, only one of them actually said you probably shouldn't be taking all that pain medicine. And the other 5 were writing scripts left and right. And I'm going, well, they're doctors. They're giving me pain medicine. I guess I should take it. Oops, I got a hangnail or I stumped my toe. It's time for a Dilaudid or something like that. Anyway, when my mom became terminal, that's when I realized I had a problem, and I got myself into a methadone program to be able to function and take care of her, because she had pain medicine, and I didn't want to be that guy that steals pain medicine from his mother or from anybody uh, that's in pain, particularly from my own dear mother to start with. So I got in the methadone program and followed it to the letter. I didn't abuse I had take-home privileges. I only had to go twice a month to the methadone clinic, and they gave me 14 take-home doses and one there. So every 30 days or every 15 days, I had to go in and get my medicines, put them in a little locked box that they checked to make sure it couldn't be gotten into without a key, and so on and so on. Yeah, man, I was taking 195 milligrams of methadone daily. Um, Buddy of mine nearly died the other day They found him unresponsive, blue, barely breathing, heart barely beating. He was cold to the touch. Thankfully, we revived him. We got him to the hospital and it saved his life. Ultimately, God saved his life. But they found a bunch of methadone in his system and a bunch of Xanax in his system. I say a bunch, I don't know how much, but I think it was about 80 milligrams of methadone that he had taken, which I was taking over double that daily, and a little bit of Xanax. Not a lot, but I was prescribed some Xanax alongside of it. Anyway, even then though, my mother was telling me, you know, you are messed up. And I didn't think I was messed up. I didn't feel high. I just thought she was crazy. And this is before she got really sick, but she took a video of me on Xanax and methadone, just nodding out and basically passing out in my food. And that's when I realized, hey, this is a lot more serious than I thought it was. So I got them to cut my methadone down. I tapered it down to, I got down to, I think, about as low as 45 milligrams a day and only a milligram of Xanax per day. And I became functional and able to get a job until I couldn't work because I had to spend every waking moment with my mom. When she got really sick was when the end was near. But it is what it is. Mom's in a better place. She died by my side with a smile on her face. You gotta be careful with alcohol for sure. That's what took my dad. He was a raging alcoholic his entire life. Even my mom, she was wanting them to give me marijuana, but in the South, they shun marijuana. Even though at my job, everybody comes in smelling a pot. Sometimes very good pot. Takes me back to my smoking days. But this is God's hour. Let's focus on scripture and not chat about drugs. That's not really what this is about. But in a way it is. It is. We all have things we do that may not be the healthiest or wisest or most pure, least sinful things. Even my coffee is probably an excess. All things in moderation, as they say, but I don't really moderate my coffee or nicotine. But anyway, Psalm 65 is what a customer of mine suggested that I read. And when he comes in, I jot it down on Apple Notes in my phone. And so let's go over it. And I'm reading from the King James Version, as is my wont, which has become the catchphrase for God Hour, so to speak. Praise waiteth for thee, O God in Zion, and unto thee shall the vow be performed. O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come. Iniquities prevail against me, As for our transgressions, thou shalt purge them away. Blessed is the man whom thou choosest and causest to approach unto thee, that he may dwell in thy courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of thy house, even of thy holy temple. All right. Now, bear in mind, David is clearly a musician, and David wrote this to the chief musician to put into song, I guess, according to the captioning in my King James Version app. But what I wanted to point at is, well, iniquities prevail against me. I don't think David was writing this about himself, because God chose David, and David continued to sin and do some pretty horrible stuff. We know the story of Nathan and David, or if you don't, we can talk about, well, I appreciate that. I am over 40. Not a whole lot, but 43. In a couple weeks, I'll be 43. But praise waiteth for thee, O God, in Zion, and unto thee shall the vow be performed. And what vow are we talking about? Well, I would say that probably you could look at the 10 Commandments as the vow, because we had not experienced the birth of Christ yet at this point. But, O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come. Well, who hearest prayer? God. Prayer is talking to God. Unto thee, God, shall all flesh come. It's what all people are going to go to God for judgment, basically. Iniquities prevail against me, and they do. They prevail against me as well. Perhaps not as much as they used to. I used to live a life of drug abuse and sin. I mean, lust. Pretty much all of them. Greed, pride, sloth, all of that stuff. I never murdered anybody. I guess that's a good thing. I felt like it plenty of times. Even the car accident I was in, which was deemed to be a no-fault situation and nobody else got hurt. I didn't hit another car. I was working full-time, going to school full-time, returning home from a 3 a.m. Walmart grocery shopping trip, and apparently dozed off and ran off the road, or maybe even had a seizure. But thankfully nobody else got hurt, and I came out of it better spiritually, and even one could argue better physically. I mean, I had my pain days, of course, but when your spirituality is comfortable and your emotions are comfortable, your body starts to feel comfortable too. But as for our transgressions, thou shalt purge them away. That is, that is the grace that God will show us. Uh, now, we don't have Christ at the time of this writing, so it was a lot trickier to get to heaven in those times, indeed. But uh, forgiveness was still an option uh, for our transgressions to be purged away. Um, Blessed is the man whom thou choosest, whoever God chooses and causes to approach him. Uh, that he may dwell in thy courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of thy house, even of thy holy temple. And now our temples here in rural Alabama are basically just little slapboard churches put together. Um, but I'm satisfied with a humble, small church with a small congregation. In fact, that's my preference. Despite what I do for a living, I'm kind of an introvert, and I don't like to be in a huge crowd of people. Um, but moving along to verse 5. By terrible things and righteousness wilt thou answer us, O God of our salvation. And we have seen some pretty terrible things in the name of righteousness. Sodom and Gomorrah thing strikes me as the most well-known incident, but also the Great Flood, the time of Noah, terrible things in righteousness. Uh, in other words, don't push God too far, or he won't use the carrot, he'll use the stick. Uh, Moving along, I'll continue in verse 5. Who art the confidence of all the ends of the earth, and of them that are afar off upon the sea. Uh, at that period in time, they'd never heard of America and other foreign, abroad countries, such as, such as America. Uh, God, who art the confidence of all the ends of the earth, which to them was as far as they've explored. That was the end of the earth to them. But they saw that there was a sea and figured, hey, there's people across that ocean. God knows about them. Verse 6, which by his strength setteth fast the mountains, being girded with power. I like that. A mountain is probably the most solid, powerful indication of creation at that time. Now we can look at stars and planets and even moons, and they make mountains look like, you know, molehills, to be kind of cliche. But back then you saw a mountain, and that was about the biggest creation you could think of, I would imagine. Uh, we're talking about BC, before Copernicus and Galileo and the understanding of the celestial, uh, you know, environment that Earth is in. Anywho, moving along, verse 7, which stilleth the noise of the sea, the noise of their waves, and the tumult of the people. And God has the power to do all of those things. And in fact, we see that, and we talked about in Matthew, where Jesus was asleep in the boat, and there was a terrible storm going around their little tiny boat, just barely able to hold 12 people and 13 people. And he woke Jesus up and said, Rabbi, teacher, master, we're going to sink. And what did Jesus say? He said, "O ye of little faith," and calmed the storms and went back to sleep. So you're disturbing my rest over something as mild as a storm trying to capsize our ship. Let me sleep, guys. Come on, I got a big day tomorrow. I gotta go heal a bunch of people. I got to restore sight to the blind. I've got to restore walking to the lame. I might even have to raise a dead or two. Just let me catch a few Z's before we get across this sea. um, in any case, um, verse 8, they also that dwell in the uttermost parts are afraid at thy tokens. Thou makest the outgoings of the morning and evening to rejoice. Indeed, are not the dawn and dusk, aka the outgoings of the morning and evening, beautiful? Are they not testament to the beauty of nature which has been created by God? Every day, every single day, we're given a work of art if we wake up to look at it. And every evening, we're given the same if we take a moment to appreciate it. And we really should try to see that dawn and dusk every day and reflect and pray upon them, if not anything more than just to say thank you for it. Anyhow, moving along. Thou visitest the earth and waterest it. Thou greatly enrichest it. With the river of God, which is full of water, thou preparest them corn when thou hast so provided for it. Thou waterest the ridges thereof abundantly. Thou settlest the furrows thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the springing thereof. Now, I was actually raised in a Native American tribe. Yeah, you too, man. Have a good day. God bless you. Tune in again sometime. As I was remarking, I was raised in a Native American clan. It's clan with a C, mind you. It used to be called the Yuppala clan, but now they've renamed it for some reason to the Kubaskoki clan of the Lower Muskogee Creek Nation. And so from a very young age, I was taught to appreciate nature. And contrary to what some may think or unfairly stereotype, Native Americans were not worshiping the trees and the rocks. They they just understood that nature was something sacred, that it was created, that it didn't just happen. It was created, and that it should be taken care of. So I would argue that the Native American culture did a better job of following Genesis than the people in the book of Genesis in terms of stewardship of the earth, taking care, not abusing the earth. Uh, and that goes for today, where we're destroying the planet, but actually just that we'll move to Mars. Let's go to Mars. We've ruined this planet, so the solution is we go to Mars. And ruin that planet, and then I suppose Jupiter would be the next stop, or a moon of Jupiter or something. Or no, I don't like that idea. Maybe great to visit Mars. I've got no problem with space travel, although if you've read any C.S. Lewis, particularly Out of the Silent Planet, where they visit Mars, but we introduce evil to Mars. In the sequel, Paralandra, we visit Venus and we introduce evil to Venus. But it culminates in the third book, That Hideous Strength, where by breaking the covenant of leaving the heavens to God and bringing ourselves and our evil to the heavens, that invites evil to come to earth. So the third book is about that hideous evil strength coming to earth and doing some pretty horrible stuff. It's a very old book. I mean, it would be in the 40s to 50s, I guess. Not very old, but nearly 100 years old. But great writing. Anyway, let's continue and finish the last of this Psalm 65. Because we've already mentioned the river of God being full of water, prepares some corn and so on, and thou blessest the springing thereof. I think that's where I left off. So verse 11, thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. And I apologize for the speech impediment. I struggle with the F phonic, as in the letter after E, or opposite of skinny, and thy paths drop fatness. Fatness, you know what he's referring to, plenty. Thou crownest the year with thy goodness. It's an interesting way of putting it. But I can only assume that as a musician and writing a song that this is mostly metaphor. As a musician in my own right, that is how I write songs. With the river of God, which is full of water. So if we compare God to a river, it's a river that can never run dry, which most rivers we don't see running dry, but history shows that there are evidence of rivers that have gone dry, just as there's the Colorado River carved out the Grand Canyon. Uh, but even that river pales to the river of God, uh, as does the Amazon and the Nile, the widest and longest rivers, respectively, I believe. Anywho, uh, verse 12, they drop upon the pastures of the wilderness, and the little hills rejoice on every side. Verse 13, the pastures are clothed with flocks, the valleys also are covered over with corn. They shout for joy, they also sing. Okay. What I'm taking out of this chapter that was suggested to me is ultimately a song of adoration for God, and acknowledging the greatness and the blessings that He's given us as mankind, as well as the power that He can and does demonstrate when necessary, but even power He demonstrates subtly, such as the creation of mountains. No, I'm sure a lot of people that don't follow the Bible, that sign on to the idea of science being the answer to everything. God does. I've been debated on this opinion, but I figure that science, physics, evolution, all of these things that seem to be controversial topics among Christians are really just tools that God uses. Uh, by physics, I mean like quantum physics. Uh, Evolution has been proven to be a fact, but it doesn't explain everything. Uh, Charles Darwin himself believed in God, but he also was able to scientifically prove evolution, uh, how things evolve to their environment. Just as people from warm climates tend to be skinnier and darker skinned, people from cold climates tend to be a little chubby. They have greater stores of fat to keep them warm and keep them fed, or give them nutrients when they can't find a lot of food. Uh, Here in Alabama, we've evolved to be rednecks, because that seems to work for the way we do. We don't have the most extreme heat or cold, certainly not extreme cold. It may not freeze all year. Rarely does it even snow each year. We might get one little flurry or two per year. Sometimes we get a big snow, and that just makes the town go into a hysteria. They close the schools and everything, and everybody starts wrecking their cars into each other, and it's kind of amusing when nobody gets hurt, how poorly prepared we are for a cold. Or if you go up to, say, Minnesota or even Virginia or even Indiana, these are all places that I've lived. Um, Snow is just another thing. uh, that you deal with. If you live on the mountains, you definitely have chains to put on your tires for snow. I don't think I know anybody with a set of snow chains here in Alabama, lower Alabama. In any case, that's more or less our God Hour main course for the day. Um, we still have to do a God Hour short for the day. In the meanwhile, though, uh, we still have about 25 minutes left to reflect. Now, I don't pray on camera, and if you followed any of the God Hour pre-recorded content, I believe I did a short on why I don't pray on camera, and that is mentioned in the Bible that you're not supposed to go on the street corners and pray where people can see you, because that's vain. It's showing off that you're praying, and you don't need to do that. As Jesus told the man or woman, the person that asked, how do I pray? And he gave a very simple explanation. And well, go lock yourself into your closet, go to a private place and shut the door where you won't be distracted, where you and God can talk one-on-one. And of course, he famously said, say these words, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom, thine the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And I may not have gotten that perfectly, but I tried. um, because I mean, the Lord's Prayer is a great prayer when that's if you don't know how to pray and you're looking for a way to segue into praying. Um, Another good way to pray, uh, as a pastor friend of mine outlined for me, is use the mnemonic of Acts, ACTS, just like the book of Acts. And A for adoration. First of all, give praise to God. Uh, Acknowledge His glory. Give Him adoration. Then C for confession. Tell Him of your sins and what you need to be forgiven for. T, give Him thanks, thanksgiving. Thank Him for the blessings He's given you um, and those around you. And finally, S for supplication, which is a tricky word, sure. If I were to ask probably 90% of the people I meet in the day what the definition of supplication is, they wouldn't be able to just define it. And let's see how, I would say Webster's, but I think it's Google's going to take me to. Sorry about that. My phone rang, and I don't don't take calls during God hour. Supplication is defined from Oxford Languages as the noun of the action of asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly. And that's perfect. That's a great definition. I couldn't. Surprise, surprise, the redneck from Alabama wasn't able to come up with as good a description or definition as the Oxford English Dictionary. In any case, T when praying, or S for supplication. Ask God for what you want or what you need. Do it humbly. Do it with supplication. And he may or may not grant that prayer. Another pastor friend of mine put it to me, and this is where Jesus steps in. You pray to God through Jesus. So I might start praying, God, I need $100 or $1 million. Jesus steps in and says, Father, he's asking for $1 million. We both know he doesn't really need $1 million, but he might need $100. I would advocate for you giving him $100, and I'm just kind of playfully role-playing Jesus talking to God in heaven. We're praying to God. Jesus is advocating for us, which he is known as one of his many titles as the great advocator. And that's pretty much the essence of that mnemonic, ACTS, acts. And then, of course, the Lord's Prayer is another great example. So if you're struggling with ways to pray or how to pray, try using either of those. My own personal way of praying is just to chat with God. I try to follow that ACTS formula, but not with a checklist of, I need to do adoration, I need to do confession, I need to do thanksgiving, I need to do supplication. To try to put all that together and talk casually, but with reverence to God. That's going to conclude God Hour for the day. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow in terms of study, Bible study, what content we're going to study. But I've been, as I said, playing with the idea of Daniel or Romans. But when I'm at work, my buddy or friend or counselor, whatever, however you want to refer to him, comes by, I'm sure he'll drop me a chapter to look into. So until then, thank you, everybody that tuned in, and seeing you in the morning. God bless you all, and until then.